maidens a milk and did go. 3 maidens a milk and did go. And the wind it did blow high, the wind it did blow low. It tossed their petticoats to and fro. So it's off to the green woods went they, and it's off to the green woods went they, and he tapped at the bush, and the bird it did fly in, a little above her lily white, her sparkling eyes they did turn round, just as if she had been all in a swoon, and she cried, "I've a bird, and a very pretty bird, and he's pecking away at his own ground. He's a help to the bird in the bush. He's a help to the bird in the bush. And we'll drink up the sun, we'll drink down the moon, that the people say little or much."
Hello, welcome back to the Ineffableelse. Welcome back to our series about Jupiter. This week we will be looking at Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. But this will also apply to you if you have Jupiter in the 3rd house. Jupiter is often associated with things being auspicious and lucky, so wherever you find your Jupiter is where your biggest gift is. A gift to yourself and the gift for you to share with others. The thing I want to get across most acutely here with regards to this is your gift for communication. How much are you tapping into that? How well are you able to really, truly communicate with others? Communication comes in many forms. Communication can be through words, spoken word, written, poetry, any kind of communication, however superficial it may seem, even posts on Instagram. Or it can also be through painting and art and expressing yourself in any form, music, dance. What is your form of expression? How do you express yourself in the world? How do you communicate who you are and what your beliefs are? It's very interesting to see what else is happening in relation to Jupiter. What is it bouncing off against? What aspects is it making to other planets in your chart? Those aspects will be amplified. This is the great amplifier, and it is the great expander of anything which it touches. So if it is in conjunction with another planet, the essence of that planet and the archetype associated with it will be elaborated on. This is something that isn't an immediate thing that happens at birth. It can seem that way, but the archetypes evolve over time. So your style of communicating as a baby is very different from how you communicate as a teen and as an adult. How has your communication style evolved? In which way do you feel most comfortable communicating? And do you feel comfortable? Or do you feel like it has been difficult to communicate with others? Maybe for you it's been something very easy and flowing and smooth, and you've had difficulty getting that connection with others that you desire, that you know you're capable of. But perhaps not. Perhaps you've managed to attract to yourself people that you really are on a level with and you're able to shoot the breeze with. It's a big ask of Jupiter, though, to help you bring things up to a higher level, to make things much more developed deeper. The narrative needs to be stronger. Gemini can sometimes be very flirtatious and flirt with different ideas and concepts and theories and different schools of thought and belief systems. Really healthy to do that. It's really fantastic to have this playful energy in the room. But Jupiter is related to Sagittarius, the centaur, the truth seeker, the higher mind, the ninth house. These things will be pulling you in a direction which is to do with expansion of consciousness. Whenever I think of a relationship between Sagittarius and Gemini, it's that coming together of friendships and deep personal self-knowledge, and often a willingness to expand your friendships into something bigger and bolder, and to challenge your friends, and to play devil's advocate, and to really not fear rocking the boat of saying the wrong thing. It says exactly the right thing in the moment to trigger that expansion of consciousness, to trigger the person to grow in every direction, which is what Jupiter is all about. It's about growth. So how do you feel your throat chakra is? How blocked do you feel there? Because it can be the cosmic joke that the very area where you have the huge gift is the area that is the most shut down. We are often very scared of our own light. Others are also intimidated by our light, and that is the very area that we shy away from. So tune in to your ability to communicate. Tune in to what you are seeing and the narrative you're able to relay to others, and the warp and weft of your consciousness, and how you can bring that into something of beauty and poetry to express to others. The greatest gift you can ever give is your true self, and not hiding behind any masks. Gemini is very good at making masks and hiding behind them and playing games, and Sagittarius will try and strip them back. And this is the Jupiter principle of expanding and bringing you into your fullest form. In order to get to these fuller bodied selves that we have within us, sometimes we have to go through a process of this dark night of the soul, and a darkened period in which we don't get our addictions met. When there is a Gemini principle, a third house principle, there can be a real need for others, a need for something to bounce off against. What happens when you're in a room alone for long periods of time? What happens when you can't express yourself in that way? How do you then feel? Are you able to communicate with yourself and to have an internal dialogue? How much deeper can you take it? Do you find yourself keeping things in a kind of bubbly, happy, floaty narrative without wanting to go down into anything too dark? There isn't really a mission for you to be a darkened person, to go down a dark route, but sometimes in order for us to get to our fullest expression of that joyful, bubbly self, there needs to be a real admittance of the dark. But even that can be found through humour. What is your sense of humour like? Have you ever really thought about it and analysed what makes you laugh? Humour is an incredibly powerful thing, and a very difficult thing to manage. Difficult thing to be a comedian, a difficult thing to make people laugh. It's actually an incredible gift, because how much is released through laughter and being able to shake the body. We're often told it has to be through re-experiencing trauma and shaking and going through many physical processes, but laughter is one of those ones that's free and easy and in the belly, and just it's infectious once it starts. And this is a wonderful principle of Jupiter, and this characteristic of being the jester, of being the class clown, and kind of getting everyone's silliness on. You know, how silly are you? And this is another thing about your style of communication and your artwork. Maybe it's not a straightforward narrative or logical thing. Maybe it's something quite extremely unique to yourself. And I mean, that's Gemini. It's very creative. It's extremely creative and playful. The other thing that Jupiter will do, it will encourage you to feed your mind, to really use this tool up here to feed it in a beautiful way. And maybe you can become fixated and obsessed with things for short periods of time, and that kind of burst of energy and flair for one thing. but briefly. They're moving on, and that kind of smorgasbord of trying to taste and touch everything. So enjoy these rabbit holes and dive right into them, and just, if you're ever feeling bored, that's a real sad thing. There should be no room for boredom with this placement, because there's always something juicy out there to get your teeth stuck into and to really explore. And the way that you explore it actually ends up helping the rest of humanity, the rest of us, because your mind will make connections where other people may not see them. Your mind will be able to understand bigger picture things, even from the minutiae of a small interaction. And you're very good at observing other people, observing dynamics between friends, dynamics between people just in the street or on the train or anywhere. You can just feel what's happening and understand the correlation of everything and how everything has a cause and effect, that kind of chain of events. There's a zooming out with this. It's a very mental place with Gemini, third house themes. And of course it's quite mercurial in that sense. It's to do with the mind. So you can zoom out and see things without getting too emotionally involved. And that makes you a very good person to be a mediator, be someone in the middle who can help people see the logic behind things. When the emotions take hold, they're stronger than anything. Emotions are the most important thing, because they really rule our life and they dominate our life. So don't think for a moment that you're not ruled by your emotions too, but you have the ability to step back when you want to analyze something and see something clearly, especially when it's in relation to your surroundings and the people in your life. You're able to see things because it's an auspicious place where you kind of feel comfortable in yourself, so therefore you're not really looking to win or gain anything from others. So you're more able to see the bigger picture of how everyone is interacting and where communication is not working, where people are really not expressing their truths. And it's so important to express exactly how you feel and exactly who you are. And many times in relationships between partners or friends or family members, people say half-truths to try and please each other, and then that is how wars are begun, when people are not admitting to their actual needs and what they genuinely want, and therefore resentment builds up and things explode in people's faces. So you're that kind of mercurial figure that can dart in between all of that and say, maybe it's uncomfortable at the time, but you don't really mean that, do you? Is that really how you feel? And kind of questioning people and pulling them up on what they say they want, and just asking questions. It's the big, Jupiter is all about ask as many questions as possible. Don't leave any stone unturned. Explore, and don't let anybody shut you down in that process, because it's basically the reason to be here as a human. It's a miracle to have a human body and to be here and to be alive. We are all extremely lucky to have this life, and therefore we should explore it, and we should ask questions, and we should open the doors and expand these areas. There's nothing wrong with opening and questioning things, and that tactlessness that can come with Gemini is very useful to kind of make wiggle room to help people open up and help yourself open up to things which, I'm shut down to that. Why can't I ask that question? And therefore you're really using the mind as a tool to investigate what's happening in the body without getting lost up here. You're kind of, interesting. Logically looking at everything that you've got in front of you, a particular situation, a particular aversion or attraction to something, and then just explore that. There's nothing to ever make you feel bored with this kind of attitude towards life. And it is a very positive thing to have within your chart, and you're very blessed to have it. And you really have the ability to take any given conversation from 0 to 100 in terms of meat, in terms of substance, in terms of something that's... there's so many times when we're in conversation and we just talk about a few handful of things that we feel kind of comfortable with between one another. But you have that kind of laser-like, clear-cutting ability to just... zoom straight through. It's sort of with this Aquarian energy. You'll feel great with Aquarius, because there isn't a fear about talking about anything. There's a freedom. There's a lack of fear associated with any particular subject. You can just go there, and the optimism of the Jupiter is what will carry you through, and it will ask you to look at things through the years, through your life, through your ancestors, and right through into the future, and how it's all affecting your present. And there's a wonderful scope with this for being able to, it's really like if Mercury was able to zoom right out and see absolutely everything. In some ways, he's this sacred being that can flip between all humans and God and understand everything and relay and communicate everything in between. So there's a real gift there. And with Jupiter being here in the Gemini sign in the 3rd house, it will be to do with also a way of, well, making money, a way that you can earn a living, because you'll have this natural ability, and there are so many things in this world that require really decent communication, and you could even presume the rest of the world has the same abilities as you, but this is a wonderful place for human resources, for being able to work in helping people within systems, in organization, in communication, in any of the given forms, to help things run more smoothly, to be able to see what's happening and to be able to predict what's going to happen, and any possible delay or issue that may arise in the future. You have a 6th sense for that. You have this ability to be able to read into the future and understand what's going to happen and what is the best direction to go. It's not very impulsive. It's more intuitive. It just kind of knows, it just kind of understands, and it doesn't get too wrapped up in the whys and the hows and the what fors. It just knows. And there can also be a jealousy from others when they see you with this placement, and a misunderstanding of it. As I mentioned before, it can be shut down when you're younger. If people think, oh, you're clever clogs, that kind of attitude. Well, you are. So use it, if you don't use it, you will lose it. So make sure that you are cultivating a mind which is a beautiful tool, rather than something that you kind of either let completely run your life. The problem with the mind is you can leave it alone as much as you like, but then it will just become overcrowded. It will just grow like weeds, it just grows, and you're not really ever able to leave it alone, because it has a life of its own, and it just grabs onto anything and makes a story out of it. So it's important to hone that mind and to use it for your higher good. So go back to the heart. It's the higher mind in terms of Sagittarius. It's what are your actual values? What is your perspective on our future as a species and for the world? And then align your mind and your thoughts along with your heart to then create a channel which you can easily fall into and move through. And then your mind doesn't easily get swayed by any of the little knickknacks and tacky things that will come along to spoil it. So although you may have this ability to be this wonderful social media guru and TikToker and all of these things, just always ask yourself, am I doing this for the highest good of it all and for myself, or am I doing this just because just because I'm great at this thing? Well, actually utilize it in a way which is going to benefit these kind of Sagittarian, Jupiterian standards, which are pretty high, pretty lofty. And see how they work. See how you can make these supposedly diametrically opposed oppositional signs, how they can work together in a way which is harmonious, in which you are expanding on the smaller details of life and bringing in a sense of the sacred to them and sanctifying them, and the mundane as divinity. That if you look at the tarot deck, there will always be fire up there, and then water, and then air, and then earth as the lowest thing. The princess is the lowest ranking, but whilst it's the lowest, it's also the most connected to the whole. It's that connection between heaven and earth, and that is really what Mercury is all about, is that trying to bring the two together. And as we go up, we go down, as above, so below, and just kind of coming back into that place in the middle. So utilizing the small and the very, very big. If you look at a map from zooming right out, it really just looks like the veins on your wrist. There's no difference between the tiny and the massive. I hope that you're able to really read wide and read. Reading is a wonderful thing to do because it engages part of your mind which is imaginative, and you have this incredibly strong sense of imagination, which can also become a bit diluted and lost with a lot of stimulation in the form of visual images, music, sound, speech, anything which is very overstimulating. So just stripping that down to reading a simple book and then watching what happens within the mind as you connect to it, and you will connect to it more as more of the synapses are making connections for yourself organically, not sort of when we watch a spectacular movie, everything is just gifted to us and we don't have to do anything. It's really just, there's no effort involved, and you've got one of those minds that's so sharp as a pin, so use it, don't lose it. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me. Please go to the website ineffableelse.com if you would like to have a reading with me and explore your birth chart more deeply. Thank you for being here. Bye bye.